So, welcome to a celebration of the birth of a great soul into the lives of so many people that he touched all over the world, and especially our nation. It's amazing when I contemplate him and how similar the time period he lived and the time period we live really is, because his time period, over 100 years ago, he was born in 1899, was so divisive and filled with such hatred and racism and anti-Semitism and just so much, war and violence. And we are facing an upsurge of that now too. So in remembering him as this great pastor of civil rights and diplomacy and love for our neighbors, no exception, we dedicate this moment to bringing forth the spirit of his movement of love. Our first wonderful presenter today is Gary Hardnett, who is also shown me the lightning spirit, because Gary has been hit by lightning not once but twice. And those experiences seemed in some way to awaken him to even greater sensitivity spiritually and musically. So please welcome Gary Hardnett.
Unknowingly, we plow through the dust of stars and drink in the universe in a glass of rain. While centering down in the stillness under a great oak tree, Thurman sought a future religion for all humanity, where minds lay low on concerns and worry, and souls stand high, illuminated in no hurry. In this moment, this time, this love comes to rest in me. In this moment, this love, many beings, one sea. In one ocean, 1,000 rivers. one snowflake, 10,000 lights shimmer. Inside of Howard Thurman's mind, a dream of contemplation time. This moment, this love, where peoples of all colors come together in sacred fellowship. The religious experience, encountering God as kinship, cultivating spiritual understanding as an art, sharing sounds of a deeper note, meditations of the heart. This moment, this love. How good it is to center down, listen to the Hardnett sound. Many pieces, one part, in the luminous dark, inside Howard Thurman's mind. A dream, a contemplation time. This moment, this love. This moment, this love. Inside Howard Thurman's mind. A dream, a contemplation time.
Thank you, Gary. That was beautiful. Magnificent. And you just wrote that.
Yes, I did yesterday. Just being in that moment and in a meditative posture, I was impelled to speak these words, this poetry. So hope it came through okay.
It was magnificent. Thank you. There's something about this experience being live, and I just felt the energy of that, what you did so authentically to express Howard Thurman's consciousness, to bring it to us. Gary, you were the first person in my life as an ordained minister in my very first ministry that I asked to share about your personal experience as a person of color. And I never knew you that way, And so as I picked my jaw off the floor, I had even more respect for you and true in your life. So would you like to share just a little bit about your story and where you were raised and how come there was so much directed at you because of the exceptional person that you are?
Um, North Carolina is where I went to school, and it was a segregated school system there when I was a teenager, and um, never saw people of a different color except on television, and the neighborhoods were segregated. And when you go downtown, the water fountains were segregated, the doors were segregated, the stores were segregated. We couldn't go to the movies except for a separate entrance to the balcony, and even at the soda shops, we would try to go in the movies, my brother and I, and the signs would be up there that say whites only, no colored served. And we try to get a soda before the movie. But my parents decided to send us to the first schools that were integrated there in 1969. The high schools, they were busing, and all of my neighborhood was so upset that 8 people went to the school across town. And that's a beautiful experience that I had in meeting my lovely bride there. And having the first, I guess, opportunity to pause and go within when at lunchtime, a riot was about to happen with, at that time was 300 people at lunch, seniors there in junior high, and 8 people of color, when they approached us and said that we had to give back their woman, their girl. And Sylvia said, "I'm not your girl." But it began to start something that was out of shape, and I paused for a moment. And in that moment, all I felt was just peacefulness. And I asked, in the middle of this thunder, could we just meet after baseball practice, settle this? And they agreed. And after baseball practice, it got settled. So, but that's the environment that kind of began. Sylvia's parents had outlawed us to be with each other, and her sisters and brothers would sneak her to come see me. But this pause. This is what Howard Thurman asked Martin Luther King and the civil rights leaders to do, to find themselves. And somehow or another, in that pause, in these moments of silence and deepness, we, each and every one of us, can find that jewel, that diamond within, and polish it off so that we can bring more light to wherever we are. And that began a journey for me of oneness and finding a common space and place to be together with wherever you are.
I'd never heard you speak it exactly that way before, and I think it's extraordinary. And I know a little bit about you, and your martial arts skills. Only imagine what that looked like after baseball practice. But I know that you went on and you had the opportunity for a prestigious career at West Point. And so, do you want to share a little bit about that little corner of your life? Because you actually walked away from West Point, which is amazing, and have become this amazing person to me who pauses and walks in the direction of your spiritual path.
Well, at West Point, I was groomed as I had come as a martial artist, and they groomed me even more. I had the opportunity to go to the NCAA championships in judo. We had an exchange student from Japan who was the national champion, and he was in the same weight class as I. But I was able to go to the NCAA championships as a heavyweight in weighing 180 pounds. There were 32 schools. They all had heavyweights at 230, 240. But I was able to defeat our heavyweight since the 180-pound champion from Japan was in the same weight class as I, and we were great together in competing. But I'm telling this part of the story to say that when I was at the NCAA champions, the high jump was just about to happen. And all the high jumpers were over 6'3", 6'4", except one 5'11", and he won. He was interviewed afterwards. We could see it on the little picture there by Howard Cosell, and he said, "How did you do it?" And he said, "I saw myself going over the top." And I heard that. And after they introduced all the schools, and people laughed when they introduced the heavyweight for West Point because they wanted to know where he was. And when I stepped up, but I paused for a moment before we all came onto the mat. And I saw myself at the end up there with 3 people, and I was on the right. And I don't know how it happened, but at the end, I was up there on the right. And I was a bronze medal. If I'd see myself on the left, I wonder what would have happened. But it was a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful blessing to see that if you can see something and envision it inside and truly, truly believe it, it can unfold for you. But I did have a dream later on that year. I was an expert marksman, and I saw myself on an assignment to take out a leader of a country who was coming out of a restaurant under an apron. And then when he came out the end of the apron, I saw him lean down and kiss his little daughter. And in that vision, I had him in my scope. I saw pure love. And I put down my weapon. And the next couple of days, I felt a different calling. And I left this point, and I had to leave because I couldn't see myself taking another life, someone who had love. And that meant everyone. We all have this pure love inside, so I had to find the Joe Dow, the gentle way, the spiritual warrior, and I walked away. And had generals after me, hey, well, they were coming up. Why did I do this? The Army has spent so much money on me. We've said you're going to be this, you're going to be that. And yes, I am, and that's why I'm not there. And so that was the West Point journey, so to speak, in a nutshell.
You were able to not get jailed with your beloved wife. How long has that beloved relationship lasted?
Oh, we've been over 50 years together, 2 sons now and 5 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. So I'm an elder.
Yeah.
68 years, and we've just begun. There's so much to life, so much unfolding happening with us here. And every one of us is on this magical journey. We're being lifted unknowingly.
Yeah.
Just pause and see beyond the stuff to something more, something better.
Mhm. Thank you, Gary. We're going to pause for a moment now. And Mike and Jemila are going to lead us in a song called Love, Serve, Remember. And the words are very simple, and so you can follow along.
Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love, serve, and remember?
Thank you, Mike and Jemila. That was perfect. So we're here to love, to serve, and to remember. And my friend, Reverend Dr. Sam Marullo, is someone who is constantly putting feet to his prayers, whether as a young quarterback of a football team, passing the ball and setting people up so that they could catch it, and never taking that center stage for himself, or the way that he is described in things I've read about him as a teacher, always encouraging the best of his students to do the work that they were called to do. He's a deacon in the United Methodist Church, and he has been involved in eradicating homelessness for many, many years. And so I asked him if he would come and share with us some good words that he might find for us about what's being done to find homes for people and get people off the streets. So I think that's something that Howard Thurman would really resonate with. So please join me in welcoming Reverend Dr. Sam Marullo.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Reverend Judy. It's so great to be here with you and all our new friends here. I was so excited when you mentioned, Howard Thurman and the importance that he's had on your life. And I went to seminary later in life. I had been trained as a sociologist and had taught sociology for a long time, but always concerned with urban problems. But then going to seminary and reading Howard Thurman and frankly several other liberation theologists was just an eye-opening experience for me to find a new place and a new way to use my vision and my gift and my calling to make a difference. So I appreciated, Gary, what you said about finding yourself and pausing and letting the context seep into us and then to choose a way forward and to discern how our own gifts are able to be used to make a difference, to be in a place in the world. And so this seemed like the perfect convergence of all of these threads in my background and training. And I often joke about it that my first job as a kid, in fact, was working as a construction laborer building housing, and working for my godfather back in Niagara Falls, where both Judy and I have family still. And now here I am, 5 decades later, building housing for people who have limited means to acquire housing. So it's just a great coming full circle and putting a lifetime of gifts and learning and experiences into this project. So I'm working for the United Methodist Church. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. And our region really covers all of the state of Maryland and Washington, D.C. And as probably many of you know, churches these days are struggling financially, and a lot of church buildings are really old and falling apart and are a real sinkhole, like the money pit for church congregations to maintain their buildings. And so we're rethinking, what do we do with our property? What do we do with our real estate? What do we do with our buildings? And we've been, I think, very creative in finding ways to provide housing for folks who are housing insecure, generally for people who are poor or have special needs, special kinds of family relationships. And different congregations have found real energy and real calling at providing housing for folks using the resources that they have. But I'd like to encourage congregations to think of their property and their gifts as gifts that have been bequeathed to them by their foremothers and forefathers that bought land and built buildings, and new congregations today move in and just have inherited them. but they represent great assets, and congregations often have not been good stewards of those assets. And especially now post-pandemic, to think of how do we make use of the assets that we have and the resources that we've been given, and how do we address a real need in our own communities. And virtually every community everywhere has a need for affordable housing. So how do we use church properties to help address this pressing community need, and in the process to generate some revenue from it so that the church can have a more sustainable ministry going forward. And often when they build new housing, affordable housing, say for low-income people, or affordable housing for grand families, or affordable housing for young adults aging out of foster care, they have a whole new community living literally right next door to them on their church property that they can engage in ministry with those folks. So I like to call it the triple bottom line for congregations that are working in this field of doing affordable housing development to serve the community, serve their own financial needs, and create new ministry opportunities with new neighbors to show God's love for their new neighbors. That's their mission. That's why they're there. So I didn't know how much of that you wanted to hear all at once, but there's the short version of what I've been up to lately, and I certainly can talk about any bits more of that in any detail. But that's kind of the big picture of what we're trying to rethink how we're using church properties.
Thank you so much, Sam, for that, and for just giving us that optimism, because many of us live in places where they're not doing much with homelessness. And it's just really encouraging to think about it in terms of, all these big properties that churches own, and all these different warehouses, different things that, can be purposed to help people to live and have shelter. And now we have Reverend Arleigh Prelow, who is a filmmaker who I believe has just finished the Psalms of Howard Thurman. No, not quite finished yet.
No.
Okay, so you'll tell us about that. But you did just finish your master's in divinity at Harvard University. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's been a few years with that,
Okay.
but
And
since we last met, though,
yeah, it's been a long time since we last met. I was happy to hear that you are an ordained minister and that you are serving the soul of humanity, as well as giving us this great image and the videos that you've been doing. So please share with us all about the movie and your life, and anything you'd like to tell us. Some of us have seen you before and many of us haven't. So we welcome you here with all our hearts.
Oh, thank you so much, Judy. Howard Thurman has meant so much to me. I've been working on this work for a while, which is probably why you're thinking, yeah, it should be done. But it's become a life's work. And really the scope of the film, The Psalm of Howard Thurman, has really changed over the years. It started off just generally a biopic from afar. And what it has evolved into is something in a sense of my story interweaved with his. And when I say my story, my spiritual journey and evolution in concert with his life. So it's much more of a personal piece in there as well. And with that, when I first met Reverend Judy, I was strictly a filmmaker. And then there was a call to ministry in 2009, and I enrolled in Harvard Divinity School at that time and became ordained early this year. So this is such a story, but Howard Thurman has been definitely a part of this. One of the things that I think about when I think about the film and Howard Thurman, and generally now I said, so why is Howard Thurman so important to me? And it's always gone to his life and his words, his life and his words. When I first encountered him, I was just starting off with my career in film and television. And but in him, I found the words to kind of keep me going in that route. But as well, my encountering him came at the same time that I became baptized at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. And so, in a sense, my connection with Thurman has been a part of this whole spiritual journey and awakening. But one of the things, the quote that really touched me came from Meditations of the Heart, and I think Gary kind of alluded to it in his thing, was as long as a man has a dream in his heart, he cannot lose the significance of living. And so it just kind of kept me going in this work. And it was always, to me, the process of making the film was just as important as, taking note of that process as the final completion. Now, that doesn't give me excuse for taking a long time at all, but really for paying attention to what has happened. And what has happened is that process is involved in the film itself. So the film, I'm loving it because we have tapes of Thurman himself speaking. We have actors, Sterling K. Brown doing the meditations of Thurman, his voiceover there, and we're in the process of hiring other actors to do the voice of Sue Bailey Thurman, his wife, in the film itself. And so really I'm seeing it as a kind of poetic take on it. It's not a straight factual far away, but weaving in music, weaving in his words, weaving in his appearance, weaving in memories of people who were impacted by him. And the real focus of the film, I know a lot of people like to talk about his spiritual advising to King and the civil rights movement, because that's something very well you can kind of tag it on to. But I'm really trying to emphasize Thurman as minister of souls, and really speaking of the experiences of his life that challenged his spirituality and his sense of God's presence, and as a sense of a way of fueling what he's eventually telling other people. So if we're following his journey of spirit, and how he's growing or feeling challenged as a person as well. So there's really that spirit, because, and I can go on and on, because when I first started this film, I found Thurman impacted people across all kinds of lines, race, faith, cultural lines. And the thing that people mostly said, agreed upon, now these people would probably argue if they were in one place or another, but was how he touched their soul, how he cultivated their spiritual growth. And so I really wanted to emphasize that piece of Thurman and tell the stories that illustrate that aspect of his life and his impact on the world. Just a couple of more things. The thing that really attracted me to Howard Thurman was not only his words, but his story. And when I say his story, as a groundbreaker, just like the kind of logo you see behind me that we use in the film with Thurman looking out at his possibilities in life. And, I consider growing up in Compton, but not by the sea, but in my backyard, looking up at the stars and just sensing that there was some place for me amidst that, but didn't have a way to figure out how to move through that. And Thurman was that model for me of how you move through these spaces and places where you are, I call it exceptional, not exceptional, like, oh, better, but there's something very different and unique about you that, and so where do you stand out in the midst of that difference, and how do you embrace that in growing up and as an adult and comfortably and really seeing his rootedness, his relationship with the divine was what kept him in that steady pace. And there are three things that I feature because I feature his meditations, the sound of the genuine, being able to listen carefully to that within you and also within others, because when you can hear it in others, there's that connection. And so that's kind of been my that's been my mode of operation in terms of encountering people different or who oppose you, and those who maybe not, but really connecting with others is really listening for that genuine peace inside of them, and seeing where it also is within you, and using that as a way of connecting. Listening, follow the grain in your own wood. And so really, I guess, embracing your uniqueness and in the world, and what your unique purpose and way of being, embracing that. And of course, keep alive the dream in the heart. Those are my favorite meditations. So of course, I'm putting those in that. So the film, because I guess finally, is I've found through the years in working on it, it could be easy to kind of follow the tropes that everyone says this film should be this way or that way, or should cover this or that. And there are many different ways that people can do a film on Howard Thurman, because people gravitate toward him in different ways. But for me, I really had to listen to what rings my heart about Howard Thurman. And what are the meditations? What are the stories that ring true with me? Because I know if they're ringing true with me, they'll ring true with a lot of folk. So essentially, that's what I'll say for right now. Of course, you'll probably have some questions. Oh, and the scene. This was shot on the beach in Daytona, Florida. That was a very special week that I spent down there. We went to the Thurman home, and the backyard oak tree still stands, and it's been there, through all, every time there's like, I hear a hurricane or something coming, I say, oh, but it's withstood all of that, right? All these years, since the early 1900s, so it's still there. And then the shore of the Atlantic Ocean, and it was such a mystical experience. When you're a filmmaker, to be viscerally, to be in that same space, years later, but he's feeling that same presence, that he felt. And there was a young boy we dressed up in the garb because I wanted him to represent Thurman during that, the early 20th century, that time. But that was a very special time to spend and be there and walk the shore and be under the stars. Just, again, it was a way of connecting to Thurman in a real special way.
Thank you so much. I was really drawn to Thurman as a mystical teacher, someone who affirmed that part of me that no one else had really before, at a time in my life when I was questioning my own soul, and my own spiritual connection. And two things really stood out for me when I read his With Head and Heart, his autobiography, were that he felt that this big, beautiful tree actually helped him to survive, that it befriended him. And I used to have a tree that I sat in as a child that I felt just took away my wounds, that just comforted me. And it was like a mother to me. And then he also said, I just pulled it out. The ocean and the river befriended me when I was a child. During those days, the beach in Daytona was not segregated as it was later to become. And I knew that to be true. I'd heard that from so many different people, and that the nature in Florida was a place where people felt freedom. And so there's so many things about his story that help me to remember who I am.
The joy of doing this film has been having that companionship of Thurman. When you're editing and things, you're always hearing things over and over. You're always having to read transcripts to decide which to keep and pull, always looking at footage, always listening to his meditation. So there's always this connect and fueling of my spirit in the midst of this journey. So that's been the great gift of this work.
I feel it. Thank you for
Okay.
Thank you for the energy and the love and the spirit of Thurman that comes through you. It's just
Thank you.
remarkable.
I was going to say the website too. It's howardthurmanfilm.com if anyone wants to know more about the film.
Type that into the chat for us.
Okay.
How people can, and how can people help you, if we can, to donate to the film, to support you in any way. Just type that into the chat or tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There's a link, a donate link on the website, and it also lists the other partners and people who have donated to the film, the larger organizations, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Ford Foundation,
Yeah.
but also family foundations as well that have. So, but it sustains itself with the giving of small and large.
We're going to have this amazing song from Ken Reed from Daytona Beach.
My favorite place.
Ken is the choir director of Unity of Daytona, and he is quite an amazing voice. Ken is going to prepare himself to sing this beautiful song that is the first song I've heard Ken sing and made me cry because he has this ability to go right into the heart and the soul of us.
I am one, simple and plain, no superpowers, no famous name, but I stand tall, 'cause I believe something greater has come alive inside of me. I have felt the Spirit stirring in my soul, deep in my soul. I will give love, I will speak peace, all because of the love that's got a hold of me. So wide open, so amazing, it takes my breath away when it occurs to me. In a world where so many feel lost, I know God. I am one, but I'm not alone. But I'm with you. I am home. Side by side, we find the truth. When the Spirit in me meets the same in you, I have felt this fire stirring in my soul, deep in my soul. I will give love, I will speak peace, all because of the love that's got a hold of me. So wide open, so amazing, it takes my breath away when it occurs to me. In a world where so many feel lost, I know God. I will give love, I will speak peace, all because of the love that's got a hold of me. so wide open, so amazing. It takes my breath away when it occurs to me. In a world where so many feel lost, in a world where so many feel lost, in a world where so many feel lost, I know God. I know God. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. So I'd like to thank you so much, everyone who participated as presenters today.